Most people think a real estate investor is just someone who buys property and collects rent. But the truth is, there are many different types of investors, each with their own systems, risks, time requirements, and income potential. If you understand these differences early on, you can pick the right starting point for your experience and financial situation, which will be a major advantage in saving unwasted time. So in this video, I'm breaking down 4 major types of real estate investors. I'll walk you through what each one does, how much money they typically need, and how much time and effort is required, and what kind of profits each one can realistically produce for you. So let's get started. First up is residential or multifamily investing. A residential or multifamily investor focuses on properties where normal families live. This will consist of single family homes, condos, duplexes, triplexes, and 4-unit buildings. This is usually the starting and easiest type of investing for beginners because it is simple to understand, financing is more accessible, and the rental demand is steady in most areas. This means you don't need much money to get started and the risk is fairly low. The money required for this strategy varies by market conditions and location, but many people start with somewhere in the range of a small to mid-sized down payment. This will normally be in the range between 20 to 25% and has the ability to reach as low as 3.5% with an FHA loan. This is why beginner investors start here, simply because the financial commitment needed is very low. The time commitment is also relatively low since you will have a very small number of units to manage. You can get a contract with a third-party management company, but honestly, your profits will be significantly less from the lack of rentals, and you're probably starting out on such a small scale that there truly is very little time commitment needed once the building is all set up and fully rented. You may only have to spend a few hours a month checking on the property, paying the bills, and responding to issues. The profit potential for small residential real estate is usually steady rather than explosive. These properties typically bring in modest cash flow, but the real strength is in the long-term wealth through loan paydown and appreciation. This is a slow and stable wealth building strategy that will work extremely well for beginners and for anyone who wants predictable and consistent profits. Now let's talk about Airbnb style investing. An Airbnb investor rents properties for shorter stays, usually a couple nights or weekends instead of a year-long lease. This strategy can produce much higher revenue than the traditional rentals because you charge per night instead of per month. However, it also requires more effort and a stronger system to be maintained. The funds needed to get started in Airbnb business will be somewhat similar to what we just talked about with residential, and will need a few extra costs. You'll need money for a pay down in the same ballpark of 20 to 25%, and now with the extra cost of furnishing, decor, photography, and marketing. The upfront investment is higher than a standard rental, but the potential monthly income is also significantly higher. The time commitment can be in the medium to high range since you may have to deal with guest messages, bookings, cleanings, reviews, and the seasonal demand changes. You can of course push the work to a third-party manager, but again, this is going to deeply cut into your profits and they don't know what to look for when it comes to your property. Now, like I said before, the income potential can be really strong, especially in popular travel areas. Normal residential investments might get you around 6% cap rate, but a really well-priced and organized Airbnb can reach 12 to 15% cap. Many Airbnb investors see revenue that is noticeably higher than the long-term rentals, but they also see swings during the slow months or off-season periods. This strategy is ideal for people who want higher cash flow and don't mind the little extra work and moving parts. Let's take it one step higher now into the commercial real estate investor. A commercial investor buys properties used by businesses such as office spaces, warehouses, retail storefronts, or mixed-use buildings with commercial spaces on the ground floor. This is a more advanced investing strategy because the deals tend to be significantly larger, the tenants operate and they have to be managed differently, and the valuation of these properties begin to heavily depend on the property's income rather than nearby home prices. This is kind of the next step for a residential investor who has a couple properties set up and is ready to move on to the bigger and more profitable deals. The amount of money needed for commercial real estate is usually much higher. Not only are the properties more expensive, but the lenders will start to expect larger down payments, higher reserves, and even a strong financial track record from the investor. Now, there are smaller properties with maybe only one or two businesses that lease up the place, but the risk will be significantly higher. I tend to not recommend this as a starting point for people for one main reason: difficulty in renting. Since this is a commercial building, you are not trying to find someone to live here. You have to find a business that not only is comfortable with the spot, but also will produce enough money to pay their rent and live off of what is left over. Hopefully you can start to see why this is a riskier side of real estate investments and really only suitable for investors who have a strong cash flow from other properties to cover the potential losses. A major plus about commercial properties though is the simplicity and minimal time commitment needed. The key is what the investors like to call a triple net tenant. Triple net tenants literally pay for nearly all the expenses that the property has. This means you will have little to no work besides re-signing a lease with the business maybe once every 5 to 10 years. This also carries into why commercial property investments yield higher profits than residential. They have long-lasting and more stable tenants. There's really no expenses on your own end as the owner, and the value of the property drastically increases when you raise the building's net income. The last type of real estate investor I want to talk about are the real estate developers. These guys are the equivalent to the sun compared to a light bulb. They carry immense risk, immense knowledge, immense responsibility, and immense profit potential. If it wasn't obvious enough, real estate developers are the one who build the new buildings. It can be smaller buildings like a duplex home or go as big as these skyscrapers. The financial requirements in development are the highest on this list, and you will also need a very strong relationship with lenders and other investors. As a developer, you also have to realize your profits won't come until a good 3 or more years down the road. So yeah, a really strong financial foundation, even consider development. You'll also need a ton of money up front to acquire the land, architects, engineers, legal approvals, and construction. There's lots of risk in all the upfront costs, and there will also be a lot of time commitment that is needed, let alone all the relationships you need to build in the first place, which will take you a minimum of 5 to 10 years to make. But you will also spend a bunch of time on calls, on site, planning, organizing, and managing it all. And trust me, I have been working in development and seeing the behind the scenes work that goes into these developments. There's truly an unprecedented amount of work and knowledge that is needed to get a project to go from nothing to something. But the potential profits and wealth creation of real estate development is truly unlike any other investment you can ever make outside of even just real estate. You are creating value from scratch, and not only do you make a bunch of money on bringing in the construction from start to finish, but if you decide to hold that property and don't sell, then you just created a new source of immense cash flow for yourself. This will keep you and your investments very happy and will also create the most stable generational wealth in the entire world. As you can see, every type of real estate investor has different level of risk, time commitment, money needed, and potential profits. There is no best strategy for everyone. You simply choose what fits you today. You grow your knowledge, expand into new strategies when you're ready. If you want more simple breakdowns like this and more daily information to help you become a successful investor, follow me on Instagram. It's steve.vec. I post daily with more tips that you can use on your real estate journey. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.